Good morning, Shirley. Reaching out in regards to some of the things I've been observing in class. Kirsten had suggested I send you a video. This is a little bit on how and what we're doing with our shoulders. So let me first start with the observation. I noticed that when you bring hands overhead, that there's a disparity between one shoulder and the other. It's hard to tell based on the camera angle, and sometimes the camera image can be flipped. But in any event, what I'm seeing is that one arm is coming up and it has a very close proximity to the head, and the other arm has a distance away. So that indicates that there's something going on relative to your shoulder and its shoulder. So what I'd like to do is propose a couple of different assessments, and from which I can kind of get a better idea of what exercises would be more beneficial towards remedying this particular situation. It's not that it's a bad thing, but it could be more optimal. What we want to try to do is avoid habits of use of joints and mobility issues or stability issues to minimize the risk of injury. So with that said, I'm going to do a lot of takes on this and kind of patch it all together and send it off to you. There are two basic, they're different things. The flexibility and mobility is the range of motion of the shoulder blade itself, like how it can move around. The stability is when we kind of move it to make sure that it's stable to manage the joint action in the shoulder that we're trying to achieve. So trying to raise my arms up, whether it's laterally, whether it was in front, anterior rotation up, and making sure that we have good range of motion, but also good stability. So I just wanted to take a few moments to kind of make it a little bit of evaluation. One of the things we can do is take our hands straight out in front of us, have our feet about hip width apart, and just have a nice gaze forward, making sure that our head isn't in a protracted state. It's back, neck long, and spine neutral. We're going to just like roll the shoulders in and out. And if you feel that you have any kind of issues doing this, let me know, because this should be something that should be achieved. This is part of the range of motion and exercise that we kind of see where if our muscles that control the range of motion or the flexibility or mobility are functioning. So if we can get like a good roll, and another way to do this is have someone look at you from behind. If they can see your shoulder blades kind of moving in that circular action, then that's perfect. That's kind of what we want. Lift it all the way up, then take the palm of the hand and place it on the back and see if we can touch the opposite shoulder blade. So we're going to simply reach up and over, and if that's able to be done, that's great. And then we're going to do the same thing, but in reverse. We're going to take that same hand and flip it around and try to see if we can touch our shoulder blade. Now, you can see that I can't do that. So I have, and I already know I have identified shoulder range of motion or flexibility issues. But if you can reach up and get your fingertips onto the shoulder blade itself, then that's a good thing. That basically shows that you've got relatively good flexibility and mobility in the right shoulder. We did the same assessment for the left. And you can see my left shoulder has more flexibility or range of motion. So that's one assessment. So I'd like you to do that and give me some feedback on how each shoulder responded. We then go on to number two. So the next assessment, we're going to lie down on our back. So what we're going to do is basically lie in a completely supine position. Very important that all of the aspects of our backside, our heels, butt, shoulders, if there's a slight separation in the low back off the floor, that's fine. We want to make sure that as we extend back our arms, so we're basically going to take our thumbs, aim them up at the sky, and start to drift them backwards. And as we do so, we're going to be mindful of what's happening in our shoulder girdle. So, and also in the rib cage. So if the middle part of our back starts to breach or lift off the ground, it shows that we have some mobility issues. So what we're going to try to do is take our thumbs all the way back and then have them sit upon the floor. And you can see that in my situation, my ribs pop up slightly. It's a nominal amount, but it's still just enough to register that I do have some mobility issues relative to this particular movement. And the next part of the assessment is going to be lying face down. And what we're going to do is basically come down into a prone position, extend our hands back with our thumbs aiming down towards the earth. We have our forehead turned in towards the earth. And without pushing the forehead into the earth, making sure it's just resting gently upon it, we're going to raise the arms up, keeping the thumbs aiming down towards the earth, and see how high up we can get them. So in my instance, I can get them way up, probably about a 60-degree angle. And that indicates that most of my shoulder mobility issues, based on the last 2 tests we did, are more from my anterior muscles than from my posterior muscles. So the capsule of the shoulder itself is being affected more by what's happening on in the front of my body than in the back. So I need you to kind of do those 3 different assessments. The reach over and touch, reach over and touch. I just did those simultaneously, but it's, you can do it individually, basically reaching back, making sure we can have, touch with the scapula, and also fingertips up to the back of the scapula on both arms, then lying supine, face up, of course, taking the arms up and over and back, making sure we're not seeing any kind of popping of the ribs, that everything else remains remains connected as we elevate the arms up and back, touching the thumbs to the ground, and then doing it in a prone position or lying face down, and then elevating the arms backwards. I need to get a registration of what's going on in your body to kind of recommend exercises that are relevant to kind of remedying if there's any problem at all. You might have great mobility in both your shoulders. It seems that you do, but to me, the issue is more or less what I'm witnessing is I see one arm kind of like dropping in and one arm kind of being way out, or not way out, but out, significantly more. Whereas we should have a better kind of registration across both shoulders, that they're more expanded out so that the arms have little impingement in terms of their movement. And without being there in person, I can't really tell, exactly what is going on. So those 3 different assessments can kind of give me a better idea so I can make some good recommendations for you.